So you'll never get out of bed again. Never get out of bed again! Never get out of bed again!
Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?
Not you!
You guys, welcome back to Stanny Boy Reviews. I'm your host, Stanley. Thank you so much for taking the time to check out my channel and to talk about your favorite horror films and my favorite horror films. It's another day, and we are here to talk about a Disney movie. Yes, we are going to talk about Snow White. We are going to talk about singing princesses in distress. We are going to talk about the animals that help her sweep up houses and the tiny little cherubmen that took her in to hide her from her evil, wicked stepmother and the handsome prince that kissed her and saved her at the end. That's actually the wrong movie. We are not talking about the Disney film. We are going to talk about a similar story with the same title, but it's a pretty different movie. We are going to talk about the 1997 Michael Kahn directed Snow White, A Tale of Terror. Released in 1997, but filmed in the autumn of 1995 in the Czech Republic, starring Sigourney Weaver, Sam Neill, and Monica Keena. Now, I don't know if you guys actually know a lot about the fairy tales from the old days, but the fairy tales written by the Grimm brothers were actually pretty creepy until they got into the hands of people like Walt Disney. I don't think that parents realized that the stories that they were telling their children before bedtime, like Hansel and Gretel, had villains like witches that were actually cannibals, that were eating children and feeding children to children. Food for thought. Before we get into anything though, I thought that it might be fun to switch things up a little bit and review other things like books. I mean, we're reviewing horror films, but why not review other things in the community, like novels? I'm a big reader. My friend Monica and I are in a book club together, and we are big Blake Crouch fans. And right now we are reading this wonderful, wonderful ghost story, Abandon. I'm not terribly far into it, but I'm really excited. It's about a group of people who go to a ghost town in Colorado. I'm looking forward to see where it goes. If you guys haven't read anything by Blake Crouch, I highly recommend him. He's written books like Dark Matter, the Wayward Pines trilogy, Recursion. He has another book coming out soon called Upgrade that is on pre-order. Check him out. Oh, and also, Monica is an up-and-coming writer. She uses a pseudonym called Magnolia White. Follow her on Instagram for further updates. She has a novel in the works called Icy Bay. Please keep that on your radar because this book is going to come out soon and it is going to blow your mind. But back to Snow White. We are going to take this back to the 1800s because that is where this story takes place. Sam Neill plays Lord Hoffman, and he's been taking care of his young daughter, Liliana, who we will call Lily from here on out, for probably the last 8 or 9 years. Her mother died in a carriage accident at the very beginning of the film, and now it is the time in his life where he has decided to take a new wife, who comes in the form of Lady Claudia, played by Sigourney Weaver. With her, she has brought her mute magician brother, Gustav, and a beautiful wardrobe that has a magic mirror within it that used to be owned by her mother, who we find out later on in the film was a witch practitioner. Of course, Lily hates her instantly. The years go by and Lily blossoms into a beautiful young woman who is subsequently played by Monica Keena. And you guys, I have to say, Monica Keena, even back then, so gorgeous. Anyway, she's the apple of her father's eye. The kingdom truly adores her, and while everyone really loves her, her stepmother is not a big fan. And something really tragic happens. I won't spoil it, but it causes Claudia's sanity to unravel, and she sends Gustav to end her life. Lily escapes into the woods and finds refuge in an abandoned house with a group of savages, and these savages spend their free time mining for gold. Of course, Claudia learns through the magic mirror that Gustav has betrayed her, and she vows to find Liliana, end her, and become the fairest in the land, no matter what the cost. All of this should sound familiar. This is all Snow White pretty much to a T. This movie is a mood. Gone are the cheery songs, gone are the whimsical, artsy backdrops, and the grinning animals, and the tiny little cherub men that I mentioned. In its place is a gothic, nightmarish drama about a vain, evil, murderous woman played to pitch perfection by Sigourney Weaver, and I'm so glad that she was recognized by the Emmys and the Screen Actors Guild for this performance, that she was nominated. Well deserved. Aside from The Ice Storm, which is my favorite Sigourney Weaver movie, this is probably my second favorite Sigourney Weaver film. She goes all out and gives her complete all in this role, and she has such a blast doing it. You can just tell that she is relishing every moment that she's on screen. She just has such a fun time. Sigourney Weaver really tackles this role with such a gleeful insanity. And the other actors do a fine job too. I mean, Sam Neill doesn't have a lot of screen time, but we all love Sam Neill. I mean, he's in The Mouth of Madness, Event Horizon, The Omen 3. He's a genre favorite as well. I have to say again that Monica Keena does really well with what she's given to do. I mean, she's the title character, and she's carrying a lot of this movie on her shoulders, and she's put in some pretty sticky, iffy situations, and she handles all this with a lot of grace. I really enjoyed her performance, and I've enjoyed all of her work since then. She had a character arc on Dawson's Creek. She ended up going on to do Freddy vs. Jason in 2003.
Place your bets.
And then eventually the Night of the Demons remake in 2009. She ended up becoming pretty successful as an actress, and it all started here. Now, I admit that when I first saw this movie at the age of 11, I just didn't find it scary. There was just nothing scary about it. I didn't understand the tale of terror aspect to it. Now, watching it as an adult, there's just something else that resonates a little bit differently, and I think it's just one of those movies that you have to watch as you get older. It's kind of like Flowers in the Attic, I guess. It's just, it may not be a straightforward horror film, but there are elements of horror. It just goes to show that it doesn't have to be an actual horror film to be worthy of reviewing and respecting and appreciating. In the Disney movie, I mean, the apple scene is scary enough, and the apple scene in this movie is pretty horrifying.
What's the matter, dear? Cat got your tongue?
And the ending is pretty horrifying as well. So those two scenes alone could classify it as a scary horror film. I had a hard time figuring out where it lies, but not every horror film has to be a horror film to be a horror film, if that makes any sense. Now, it's hard to compare this version of Snow White to any other version of Snow White, but really, this is the only version of Snow White that I care to see at the end of the day. I'm not a sadist, but I want to see birds in hourglasses. I want to see mirrors getting stabbed and bleeding. I want to see shards of glass being thrown in faces. I want to see old crones with rotting teeth. This movie has a lot going for it, and it was executed so well on so many different levels. The makeup and the wardrobe are amazing, and the art direction is one for the books. Peter Russell would go on to do movies like Gladiator and the more recent Disney version of Aladdin, the live-action remake with Will Smith. And let's not forget the soundtrack by none other than John Ottman, who has done so many movies like House of Wax and Orphan and Halloween H2O. So this movie has so much going for it outside of the wonderful performances. It's good. It's really good. So on Stanny's Stab-O-Meter, I would give it a solid 4 stabs. Why not give it 5 when I have hammed it up so much? Well, I really can't look past this whole tale of terror subtitle. Call me a dick. If they just would have called it Snow White, I think that if it just would have went straight horror on me, if Lady Claudia would have just went on a rampage killing everybody, or if her reflection would have stepped out of the mirror. I think I'm gonna keep the rest of this to myself because I can smell a reboot, a brewing, and I don't want anybody stealing these ideas because it's never too late for a reboot, which Pet Sematary has proven. Shameless plug. Go watch my Pet Sematary review. All right, you guys, leave some comments. Let me know what you thought about Snow White, A Tale of Terror. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, follow me on Twitter, all of that stuff. You know the drill. I'll see you soon.